Okay, kids, in this video what we're going to do, this is topic 6-9, and we're going to be talking about evaluating expressions with fractions. Now remember, we learned how to divide fractions and whole numbers by fractions, so we're going to apply those skills to this lesson. Please open your book to pages 68 to 69 so that you can follow along. Okay, so pause the video and then take out your book. Okay, in your book you will see a situation that they give you, okay? And then they go over some of the processes for solving a situation. They ask you, how can you evaluate an algebraic expression using fractions? Okay? And so, that's what we want to do is we're talking about evaluating an algebraic expression. Remember, an algebraic expression has variables and operations in it. When you evaluate it, you're trying to break down and get the variable alone and find out what the value of the expression actually is. Okay, and you'll use things like substitution. Here's the situation. Mr. Grant wants to tile a 27 square foot area with square tiles. That's an important statement. It's a square tile, which means every side will be the same. And then in the book, they show you what the tile looks like. He can use the expression below to find out how many tiles to buy. How many tiles will Mr. Grant need to buy? Okay, so there's a couple things going on here. First of all, here's the expression he's going to use. 27, which represents the square foot area of his room. Okay, and then you have, so you're going to take the area of his room and divide it by the area of one tile. Okay, so the area of one tile is determined by multiplying length times width. So in other words, you have your length times your width, and that will give you your area of one tile. Now this tile looks pretty big right here, but really it's only, S has a value of 1/3 of a foot, so it's pretty small. In other words, what you're looking at is a situation that looks like this. Okay? You actually have this situation. This is the entire room, okay? And he wants to cover it in tiles, okay? Each tile is only this big and only covers that much area. So what he has to do, Mr. Grant has to figure out how many of those little tiles he needs to cover this entire area. Each one of these tiles is really, really small, and it's actually 1/3 of a foot by 1/3 of a foot. So that's where you came up with, in order to figure out the area of this tile, okay, you would have to multiply 1/3 times 1/3. Okay, so once you do that, you'll then get the area of one tile, and then you can figure out how many you need, because this is 27 feet squared. So this is 27 square feet, and you've got to know how many of those little tiles will cover that, so when he goes to order them. Alright, so that really is our situation when we look at it. Okay, so the book then goes on to give you a solution for solving this problem. And the first step they tell us to do is to substitute 1/3 for S to find the area of the tile. So in other words, here's what the tile is. Okay, and what you're going to do is you're going to take S, which represents the length of one side and the length of another side, and basically what you're doing is you're doing length times width. And when we multiply length times width, okay, we are going to do 3 times 3, which equals 9, and 1 times 1, which equals 1. Now the reason we need to find the area of the tile first is because you have the whole room, and you're going to then divide that by 27. So you take and you find the area of your tile first, so that's in parentheses, and that's 1/3 is the length and the width, so you would multiply 1/3 times 1/3, and you would get 1/9. Then you can take the area of the room, 27, and divide it by 1/9. Okay? So the next step then will be to take and do your actual division. So we know that we got 1/9. This is, remember, this is the area of one tile, okay? And we have 27 square feet to cover with one tile, with each tile that has this area. So what we're going to do is we are going to write 27 over 1 as an improper fraction. We're going to change our division to multiplication and then create the reciprocal of 1/9, which would be 9 over 1. And now that we have 9 over 1, we can do our multiplication. We cross simplify if we can. We can't cross simplify, so we're just going to do 27 times 9. So we have 27 multiplied by 9. Okay, 9 times 7 is 63. Carry your 6. 9 times 2 is 18. 18 plus 6 is 24. And again, in your book it shows this being done in layers with an equal sign possibly right there. And so as we evaluate the expression and break it down, we know that 243 tiles, okay, when we multiply 27, when we divide 27 by 1/9, we end up with 243 because we multiplied by the reciprocal. So our answer is 243. All right? So Mr. Grant needs to buy 243 tiles. All right? Now, what that looks like is this. Okay? What that looks like is this. So he's going to need 243 tiles to cover his entire room. So his room, okay, was 27 square feet, and each little tile right here measured 1/3 by 1/3, and we multiplied and we determined that we had an area of 1/9 per tile. So each one of these is 1/9 of a foot, 1/9 of a foot, and eventually we had to divide that all up by the area of one tile to come up with the answer of 243 little tiles. Okay? So anyways, that's how they came up with the answer of 243, and that's what it looks like if you use individual tiles to divide up the total area of 27 square feet. So, now what I'd like you to do is take out a piece of paper, pause the video, take out a piece of paper, and we have some problems for you to try. Okay? So go ahead and pause the video, take out your paper, and see if you can solve these problems. We want you to use substitution to evaluate. In other words, we want to find out what is t divided by 10. We want you to simplify, break it down, and come up with the value of this expression. Okay? Alrighty, pause the video and see if you can solve these two right there. Alright, here comes the first one. Alright, the first problem the first expression that we want to evaluate is going to be this one right here. So what we're going to do is we are going to say, okay, we have t, okay, divided by 10. And we need to substitute t for the value that they give us, 5, 6. So we're going to rewrite it as 5, 6, okay, divided by 10. Now, the basic rules of division kick in at this point, okay? So we are then going to rewrite 10 as an improper fraction, okay? We would think of this as 10 over 1, okay? But we can just write it underneath here as the reciprocal, which would be 1 over 10, because now we are going to multiply by 5, 6. Alright? So what we have here is a situation where we are ready to multiply. Remember, you can cross simplify. 5 will go into 5 one time, 5 will go into 10 two times, and then you'd multiply 1 times 1 equals 1, 6 times 2 equals 12. So our final layer, if we were simplifying this down, our final layer would be 112. Okay? And the book shows you with equal signs because they're trying to get you to come up with 112. Alright? Now, over here, this problem gets a little bit more complicated. Alright? Just a little bit more complicated. Alright? So we're going to rewrite the expression using substitution. So we're going to write 1 2/3 plus x. X has a value of 1/2, so we're going to substitute x for 1/2 divided by 3. Now the order of operations has to be followed when you solve this problem. Okay, so of course, hopefully when you did this, okay, our first layer will include the 1 2/3 as it is right now and the addition. We're not going to do this yet. What we need to solve is 1/2 divided by 3. Okay? Now, again, we know that 3 needs to be an improper fraction, which then needs to be turned into the reciprocal of 1 over 3. So we're going to rewrite 1/2 with a multiplication symbol and use the reciprocal of 3, which will be 1/3. Okay? So now we have 1/2 times 1/3. Now, if you needed to, you could actually do that on scratch paper and do 1/2 times 1/3. Some people can do that in their head, and they know that 2 times 3 is 6. They know that 1 times 1 is 1, so the answer is 1/6. So now we have our next layer underneath there, which is going to be 1 2/3 plus 1/6. Alright? Now, might be a little complicated. You might need to brush up on your adding of fractions, but remember, in order to add mixed numbers and fractions, you need a common denominator. So I always tell kids to rewrite it on scratch paper as 1 2/3, okay, plus 1/6 underneath, and then you can rewrite your fractions with a common denominator off to the side here. So the common denominator, or least common multiple, for 3 and 6 is going to be 6, and 1/6 stays 1/6. 3 times 2 equals 6, so remember it's 3 times 2 equals 6, so you have to multiply 2 times 2, and you'd end up with 4 6. So now we have a common denominator, and we can add 4 plus 1 is 5. Denominator stays the same, and that's 6. Okay? So let me tilt this down a little bit for you. You can see what we're looking at right there. So now we have 5 6 as our answer, and all we have to do is add the whole number 1. So we can say that we have 1 and the 5 6, which would be 1 and 5 6, okay? And that's how you would solve that problem. Now notice in the book that they did it in layers, and they might even be assuming that you're using a calculator to solve these problems. Alrighty? Okay, let's try a few other problems. Let's take a look at another situation. Here they give you a table, and they want you to complete each table by evaluating the expression for each value of the variable. Well, this is J, and this tells you what the variable is. And when you evaluate it, you simply take this value and substitute it for J. Here is our expression. Okay, the expression is 2J plus 3/5. So what you'll do is you'll have to substitute 1/2 for J, and that will give you your answer here. Now remember, you have 2J, which is 2 times 1/2, so your problem will look like this: 2 times 1/2 plus 3/5. Okay, so why don't you pause the video and see if you can solve this expression using the variable 1/2 and find out what this value is. So pause the video and give it a try right now. Okay, here we go. Hopefully you got it right. Remember, order of operations, we're going to do the 2 times 1/2 first. Remember, when you multiply 2 times 1/2, you simply turn 2 into an improper fraction and then multiply 1/2. Okay? Multiply across. In a situation such as this, you would do 2 times 1 is 2. 1 times 2 is 2. That will give you a value of 1. So now you simply have 1 plus 3/5. 1 plus 3/5 equals 1 and 3/5. So your answer for this one would be 1 and 3/5. Okay? And that's how you would solve this table there. Okay? Just remember that you're going to substitute the value of J into the expression, just like we did over here. Okay? All right, if you have further questions, you can see your teacher.